The rebound trap, why you keep falling for the wrong one after a breakup. You promised yourself you'd take time to heal. You told your friends, I'm not rushing into anything. But then, someone came along. They made you smile again. They said all the right things. They felt like the antidote to your heartbreak. So you dove in, fast, deep, hopeful. But now, you're confused. You're hurt. Again. And you're asking yourself, why does this keep happening? Why do I fall so hard, so fast, and end up back in the same pain? Here's the truth no one talks about. You're not broken. You're not bad at love. You're caught in something called the rebound trap. And it's a cycle that starts when your heart is still bleeding, but your soul is starving to feel whole again. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why you keep falling for the wrong person right after a breakup. Not because you're weak, but because your brain, your heart, and your identity are still in recovery. We'll break down the signs, the psychology, and most importantly, how to finally break the pattern. Let's get into it. The rebound trap isn't just dating someone too soon. It's deeper than that. It's when you fall for someone, fast and hard, not because you're ready for love, but because you're desperate to stop hurting. After a breakup, your entire emotional system is thrown off balance. You're grieving, not just the person but your identity, your safety, your sense of control. You feel raw, ungrounded, and emotionally exposed, and what your brain wants more than anything is relief. So when someone new shows up, someone who pays attention, makes you laugh, texts back quickly, it feels like rescue. They don't just feel exciting, they feel like medicine. You go from heartbreak to butterflies, from feeling invisible to suddenly being wanted again. And that shift, it's powerful. But it's also misleading because what's really happening is this. You're not connecting from a place of clarity. You're connecting from a place of emotional escape. You're chasing a feeling, not building a foundation. And that's what makes it a trap, because at first, it feels like magic. But soon you start noticing the cracks. You feel anxious when they're distant. You're ignoring red flags. You're more invested in how they make you feel than who they actually are. And eventually, the illusion fades, and you crash, often harder than before. The rebound trap is about speed over substance, intensity over alignment, distraction over healing. And if you don't recognize the signs early, you'll keep mistaking emotional rescue for real love. You meet someone new, the spark is instant, you talk for hours, you're texting nonstop, the energy is electric, almost too good to be true. And that's exactly the problem. After a breakup, your emotional baseline is emptiness. So when someone shows up and gives you even a little attention, your brain interprets it as everything. You mistake emotional intensity for emotional depth. You confuse attraction with alignment. And because it feels so good, you assume it must be right. But here's what's really happening. You're not falling in love with them. You're falling in love with how they're making you feel in contrast to your pain. It's not compatibility, it's relief. They feel exciting because your nervous system has been in mourning. They feel like a soulmate because you're starved for comfort, not because they're the right person. And so you build a connection on adrenaline, not emotional stability. The danger? Intensity creates illusion. It convinces you that you just click, but you haven't actually seen who they are yet. You've just seen how they made you feel when you were hurting. And relationships built on that kind of high tend to crash when real compatibility is finally tested. After a breakup, you don't just feel lonely, you feel like something in you is missing. You miss the messages, the comfort, the routine, the someone. And when a new person enters your life, your first thought isn't always, are they right for me? It's, finally, I feel better. Here's the trap. Feeling better doesn't mean you're ready, it just means you're not hurting as much in that moment. But relief is a short-term emotional state. Readiness is a long-term emotional capacity. You might be bonding with this new person, not because you've processed your grief, but because you haven't. You're trying to prove you're okay, trying to prove you're still wanted, trying to outrun the stillness, because stillness feels like sadness, and that's when the rebound becomes a crutch, not a connection. It feels like you're ready to move forward, but you're not really choosing them. You're choosing escape from the emotional heaviness you don't want to face. And here's how you can tell. You feel panicked when they pull back. You feel empty when they don't validate you. You feel like your sense of worth depends on their attention. Because it's not just a relationship to you. It's your emotional proof that you're okay now. But real readiness doesn't look like urgency. It looks like calm. It looks like clarity. It looks like choosing someone because they align with you. Not because they're the first to show up after your heart broke. Sign 3. You ignore red flags because you're craving validation. In a rebound, you're not always looking for truth. You're looking for comfort. So when those early warning signs show up, you don't call them out. You minimize, you rationalize, you tell yourself, it's not a big deal. I'm just overthinking it, at least they're here. But deep down, you see it. The way they dodge vulnerability, the way they love bomb then go cold, the way the connection feels good, but inconsistent, the way you always feel just a little off balance. Here's what's happening. You're craving validation more than connection. You want to feel wanted, chosen, seen. And that craving overpowers your intuition, because this isn't just about them, it's about what their attention represents to you. You'd rather hold on to the hope than confront the truth. You'd rather keep the connection than risk facing that you might be doing this again, falling for someone who can't actually show up for you. And that doesn't make you weak, it makes you wounded. Because after a breakup, you're not just healing from heartbreak. You're healing from the parts of you that still believe love has to be earned, so you tolerate red flags just to keep the feeling of being enough. But the truth is, the more you ignore the discomfort in your body, the louder it gets later. And ignoring those early red flags often leads to repeating the same pain in a different person with a different face. Why the rebound feels right until it doesn't. At first it feels like magic. They say all the right things, they respond quickly, you laugh, flirt, feel alive again. Your friends say, you seem so much better. And inside, you start to believe it. This is it. I'm finally over the last one. This new connection is what I needed all along. But here's what you're really feeling. Emotional relief. Dressed up as romantic clarity. You've skipped the grief, skipped the stillness, and jumped into something that feels good, without checking if it's actually good for you. And for a while, the illusion holds, but then, the excitement fades, the texts get slower, the conversations feel hollow, the validation doesn't hit the same, and slowly, you start to feel the same pain again. But now you're doubly confused, because this time it felt so real. That's the hardest part of the rebound trap. It feels right when your heart is aching. But once the ache settles, you see the cracks that were always there. You realize, you don't know this person deeply. You rushed past red flags. You were looking for comfort, not connection. And the crash hurts. Not just because of the breakup, but because of the disappointment. You hoped this would save you, but now you realize, it wasn't love. It was escape. And that moment of clarity, it hurts, but it heals. Because once you name the trap, you finally have the power to stop repeating it. How to break the pattern. So now you see it, you recognize the cycle. You've been here before, falling fast, feeling hope, then watching it fall apart again. But here's the good news. Once you see the pattern, you can stop being controlled by it. Breaking the rebound trap isn't about punishing yourself. It's about pausing long enough to ask better questions before you jump again. Step 1, ask yourself the hard question. Before you attach to anyone new, ask, am I choosing this person? Or am I choosing to not feel alone? That one question can save you from months of confusion. Step 2, sit in the stillness. This is the hardest part, sitting in the empty space. No distractions, no flings, no fast fixes, because it's in that quiet space that you'll face what the rebound has always protected you from. The grief, the loss, the identity collapse, the truth about your past relationship, the version of you that still doesn't feel whole. Healing happens there, not through someone else, but within you. Step 3, rebuild before reattaching. Before you date again, rebuild your routines, your sense of self-worth, your ability to feel safe with yourself, because when you no longer need someone to distract you from your pain, you'll finally be able to recognize someone who's safe to grow with. Step 4, redefine what ready feels like. It doesn't feel like butterflies or obsession or urgency. It feels like calm. It feels like clarity. It feels like someone who doesn't fix you, because you already did the work. You don't need to run from love. You just need to stop running toward replacements. And the next time your heart reaches for someone new, you'll be able to tell the difference between a connection that feels good in the moment and one that's meant to last. Closing message. If you found yourself stuck in the same cycle, falling fast, hurting deeper, wondering why it keeps happening, you're not alone. And you're not broken. You're human. You're healing. And you're learning to stop confusing intensity with intimacy. Rebound relationships feel real because your heart is real. Your desire to feel whole again is real. But love built on urgency rarely survives peace, and that's the shift. You don't need someone to save you. You need space to meet yourself again. So when love shows up next time, you'll recognize it not by how fast it moves, but by how safe it feels. Drop a comment below, even if it's just, this time, I'm choosing clarity over chemistry. You never know who else needs to read that to start their own healing. Subscribe and like if you want more videos about emotional clarity, healing from patterns, and building real, rooted love, not just the kind that feels good for a little while. You deserve connection that doesn't confuse you, that doesn't leave you guessing, that doesn't need rescuing, because it's already real. And now, you're finally ready for it.